guys, welcome back. So today I have been doing a little more thinking about the Oscars and horror, about how it's horrifically overlooked and snubbed usually every year. Today, I wanted to think about what if the Academy had a best horror category. So today, I compiled a list of all of the most popular movies of the 2010s, so from 2010 to 2019, considering the Academy and what we know about them, their biases, what they like to nominate, what would have been nominated in those years and what would have won. Just a caveat, I have not seen every movie that is on these lists. If I'm missing any movies that are important on that list, please let me know down below. Also, for the sake of this thought experiment, I am going to have the category be limited to 5. I don't know, it sounds like a fun little thought experiment and I hope you enjoy it. So let's get started. Let's jump right into 2019. So for 2019, I think that there are 3 obvious choices for movies that would fill some of these slots. I think there's no question that Midsommar would get nominated, Us would get nominated, and The Lighthouse would get nominated. I think these are 3 movies that are not only just popular, but they are very well received. These are all super auteur films, right? We got Midsommar, which is Ari Aster. You got Us, which is Jordan Peele. You got The Lighthouse, which is Robert Eggers. I think this fills those slots. If these 3 movies are shoo-ins for getting the nominations, what else do I think would fill those last 2 slots? We do have a bit of choices. You have Ready or Not, It Chapter 2, Doctor Sleep, Zombieland, Double Tap, Ma, Escape Room, The Dead Don't Die, Happy Death Day to You, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Annabelle Comes Home, Vivarium. Maybe some of the ones that are a little more hidden that not everyone might have seen. Maybe there's Saint Maud, Color Out of Space, Swallow, The Lodge, I See You. These are some of the most popular movies that stuck out to me. I think for my 4th slot, I definitely would have It Chapter 2. One, because I think it was a major box office success. So I definitely think that that would help it in this case, especially as nowadays in the Best Picture categories, there seems to at least be 1 or 2 blockbusters that make it in. It's got a good cast, good acting, etc. I mean, it fits the bill, right? Now for my last one, I want to choose something that is a little more of an intimate indie. I actually have not seen this movie, so it feels a little weird to choose it. However, it does feel like a movie that if people wanted to recognize the horror category, it might make it in there as a sleeper indie hit. I don't know. You tell me if you've actually seen this movie. I think for my 5th slot, I am going to choose Saint Maud. This one is directed by Rose Glass, I believe, and she did Love Lies Bleeding somewhat recently. And I have seen that, but I have not seen Saint Maud. However, I have heard really good things about it. You have Midsommar, Us, The Lighthouse, which are all original films. It Chapter 2 is a sequel, but it made a huge splash at the box office. Everyone saw it, so it could get that populist vote. And then Saint Maud could be that critically well received smaller movie that would sneak in. I don't know. This looks like a pretty solid lineup. What do you think? Now, who would be the winner in this instance? It's actually really hard to say who would win between Midsommar, Us, and The Lighthouse. And the winner of this category, instead of getting an Oscar statue, they will be awarded the imaginary Sharky, my shark duck. And the winner goes to The Lighthouse. Let's move on to 2018. So here there were 3 choices that I thought were very obvious standouts for the year that I definitely have no doubts would get in. Those 3 would be Hereditary, A Quiet Place, and Annihilation. I think Hereditary can definitely fit the definition of that special, elevated horror that was critically well received. It is decently popular. A Quiet Place, I don't remember if it did really well at the box office. That one was certainly a populist hit, and that was a movie that a lot of people really liked. Annihilation could perhaps be a little bit more of an auteur pick. I know it's made by Alex Garland, but this feels right based on what I know about it. Now, what other 2 movies will fill that slot? For some more populist choices, you could go movies like Bird Box, you could do The Nun, Halloween 2018, you could do The Meg, The First Purge, Truth or Dare. Now, some of these I really don't know if those would ever make a best horror, especially the franchise films, especially if they're really late into the franchise. But the Oscars have nominated worse things before, so crazy things could happen. I think that if I'm gonna go a somewhat more populist pick that is generally really liked, actually I am going to choose the Suspiria remake by Luca Guadagnino. I mean, it's a remake, right, of the original Dario Argento's film Suspiria, but it also added a lot more and it was quite original if I remember correctly. I watched it a long time ago. I would say Luca would break through with Suspiria Suspiria should this category exist. And for my last choice, I want to choose something that is a little more critically acclaimed. Again, sometimes these movies, I don't know how popular they actually are. I'm kind of in the horror sphere, so some of these movies are very obvious to me, but I don't know. Maybe some people actually know these movies, or maybe some people actually don't know these movies. But some other choices that we could choose would be things such as Climax, The House That Jack Built, Mandy, Gonjiam Haunted Asylum, Possum, Unsane, Butterfly Kisses, Cam. Maybe these are some choices that could be made. Yeah, I think I'm going to actually go with Climax. I mean, this is filmed by Gaspar Noé, I believe, who has made some very difficult films to watch. This was my first film that I saw by him. I think this one is accessible enough in the horror genre that this one could be given recognition by the Academy in this scenario. So this is going to be my choice for 2018. After much deliberation, I think I feel pretty confident about what the winner would be, and the Sharky goes to Hereditary. All right, so 2017, there were 2 movies that stuck out for me that I think would obviously get nominated, and those 2 would be Get Out and It. I think Get Out is like a de facto nominee, considering the fact it is one of the rare 7 movies that have been nominated for a Best Picture Oscar that is a horror film. So Get Out would get in. It was a box office success, and I think generally pretty well received. I liked it, in fact. So we only have 2 here. We need to fill the other 3 categories. What are some of the choices we have? If we go with some of the more popular picks of the year, some of the things that some of the things a lot of people have seen, we could go with Happy Death Day, Alien Covenant, Annabelle Creation, maybe a little Jigsaw, The Mummy, 47 Meters Down. Some of the more auteur picks that we could choose could be something like The Ritual, Mom and Dad, Gerald's Game, It Comes at Night, Life, Revenge, One Cut of the Dead, Terrified, or, we could give it to The Velocipaster. Sorry, probably not. I just really wanted to shout out The Velocipaster. Part of me wants to nominate Mother. However, I do think that this movie was really controversial. I liked Mother, but people either really liked it or they really hated it. However, Darren Aronofsky did get in for Black Swan, so could be a thing. I think, to make it easy, one of the most populist picks I would choose would be Alien Covenant. Alien Romulus just got nominated last year for just visual effects or something like that. The Alien franchise is not a stranger to the Academy, so if this category did exist, we would definitely see Alien Covenant in there, I think. Of course, we know the Academy is notoriously biased against international films, which really sucks, but I do think it's getting better, so knowing based off of that, I want to try to get something international in here. This one I actually have seen. I thought it was really fun and really good, a really subversive thing to do for the genre. I would choose the Japanese film One Cut of the Dead. It's definitely hard to imagine the Academy nominating a film such as this. However, should this category exist and should the Academy actually take horror seriously, I don't see why it wouldn't get in. For my last one, I decided screw it. I say the Academy is going to do it. They've nominated Darren Aronofsky's Black Swan before, so maybe they want to honor him again. Let's say they put Mother into the category, and it would be a very controversial nomination, I am sure. And with our nominees, the Sharky would go to Get Out. I think that's pretty obvious. Now moving back to 2016, this one was actually very, very difficult to look at. I think that the most populous movies that would get in that were generally well received would be 3 of them. It would be Split, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, 10 Cloverfield Lane, I think was generally well received, and The Conjuring 2. I think, although The Conjuring 2 is a sequel, I think it's good enough. James Wan is respected enough that he would get in there with a sequel. What are some other choices? 2016 kind of feels like slim pickings. But you have the really popular Korean films, Train to Busan, The Wailing. I have not seen The Wailing, but I really, really want to. You have a lot of auteur picks. You have Raw, Shin Godzilla, The Autopsy of Jane Doe, Hush, The Neon Demon, The Love Witch. You have some more typical horror films. You have Don't Breathe, Lights Out, A Cure for Wellness, The Belko Experiment, Better Watch Out, The Shallows, The Purge election year, Ouija Origin of Evil. And then you have the underground pick that absolutely would not get in, which is Terrifier. Even if the horror genre was embraced by the Academy, I don't see a world where things like Terrifier, unfortunately, are embraced. I just don't see it. I wish, but I just don't see it. So based on this list, actually it's one that I don't really love, to be honest, but I'm gonna put it in there because I do think that it was well received and a lot of people really liked it. I would put Don't Breathe into the nominations. And then for the auteur pick, I think it's kind of difficult because we have Train to Busan, The Wailing, and Raw, which is actually the ones that I'm debating between. But based off of popularity, I think it would go to Train to Busan, although I'm pretty sure The Wailing is a very well received and supposed to be a really good movie. I don't know, it's kind of difficult, but I'm gonna put Train to Busan. I've actually seen it, so I know that it's good. This is going to be my category. Honestly, maybe you could snub Split or 10 Cloverfield Lane and put something that is generally more well received. However, I do think that should this fake category exist, the Academy would do more populist things over the auteur picks. And with our nominees, the Sharky goes to, oh my gosh, this is really difficult. With our nominees, the Sharky in a surprise upset, Train to Busan. However, I must admit The Conjuring 2 has a special place in my heart because to me, I am the most scared by paranormal, possession, demonic movies, and it terrified me. But also it made me cry, that movie, the scene with the singing and the Elvis Presley. Yeah. So maybe for that reason, I would want to give it to The Conjuring 2. However, in this fake Academy world, I would give the Sharky to Train to Busan. So 2015, we saw a decent number of popular movies. One that I definitely think no doubt would get nominated is The Vivitch or The Witch, which was directed by Robert Eggers. My second choice for something that I definitely think would be nominated is a movie I have not seen. So this is purely based off of the cast and the reviews off of Letterboxd. I think Bone Tomahawk seems right. It just fits the vibe, but I've definitely added this to my watch list. Has anyone seen it? It looks pretty interesting. And my third one, I think, is this popular? I don't know if a lot of people have seen this one or not. Maybe it's more popular than I realized, but it definitely would be Green Room. I think that this movie would 100% be celebrated. The Vivitch, I know it's The Witch, but I'm just gonna call it The Vivitch, okay? Bone Tomahawk and Green Room, I think, are definitely nominees. What are some of our other choices? Guillermo del Toro made a film. He made Crimson Peak, which is more of a horror gothic romance. We have populist films such as The Visit, Krampus, Insidious Chapter 3, Poltergeist had a remake this year. You have more deep cut films, which would be like Hell House LLC, Be My Cat, a film for Anne, Deathgasm, Final Girls, maybe a more auteur film, The Invitation or The Black Coat's Daughter. And then you have some things like Sinister 2, Circle, The Lure, Knock Knock. Are these worth mentioning? I'm not sure. But these are the kind of films that we have going on this year. So I need to fill in 2 slots. I think the 4th nomination would go to Crimson Peak. I know a lot of people don't seem to like this movie for some reason, but I actually really like it. I love the gothic romance of it all. I mean, it's not like a straight up horror film, but it's got horror elements to it. And I love horror when it blends genres. I think it's really good. This is pre-Shape of Water, I believe, but the Academy still seems to really love Guillermo del Toro. So maybe at this point still they would have already honored him in this little category. So I think Crimson Peak would be a good addition to this. And honestly, I think we need to put in a more populist pick because looking at this, a lot of this does look a little bit auteur and we don't have that big blockbuster kind of what is this doing here film. And I think we need one of those. But which one would it be? That's difficult. Because my mind wants to go to The Black Coat's Daughter. I haven't seen it, but it's supposed to be decently good. It's an Osgood Perkins film, but I think that one does feel a little too auteur for the populist pick. We could go Sinister 2. It is a sequel though, but it wasn't as well regarded as Sinister. I think we have to much controversy, go to The Visit. He was once recognized and awarded by the Academy, especially for The Sixth Sense, right? So I don't see why they need a more populist film. why they wouldn't throw his movie in there. I've actually not seen The Visit. It seems to be pretty like mid or hit or miss for some people, but it doesn't seem to be so terrible. So maybe it could sneak right in there. So that would be my choice for the 5th slot. It's a little difficult because I've seen 3 of them. I think if this category existed, the Sharky would go to the Vivitch or the Witch. All right, moving on to 2014, we have some good choices here. I believe I have 3 that I've chosen right away. A more auteur, elevated horror, critically well-received film would be It Follows. I think that this one would be good. I actually just watched it recently again, and it still holds up. I think the second movie that would kind of follow a similar vein to It Follows would be The Babadook. And my third movie is going to be a little more of the populist pick that a lot of people seem to like more now, it seems. I've actually not seen this movie, but I would choose As Above, So Below. It's a movie I've heard a lot about. And yeah, it seems to be pretty liked or well liked, especially as time goes on, but maybe I'm reading the wrong circles. I don't know. What do you think about it? So I think those are the 3 that I definitely feel comfortable saying, yeah, I think this would get nominated. What are some of our other choices? Well, in 2014, some of our more populist picks would be things like What We Do in the Shadows, Annabelle, Tusk maybe, The Purge Anarchy, Ouija, Paranormal Activity, the marked ones, deep cut horror fan movies. Maybe it could be Creep, The Voices, or Spring. I actually don't know what Spring is, but when I was looking at this video, I looked it up and it looks really interesting. Has anyone seen it? I kind of want to watch it. Or also maybe something like Housebound. Gerard Johnstone, I believe his name is, before he did Megan. Or maybe you have some other like random picks of the year, which would be like Goodnight Mommy, Unfriended, The Taking of Deborah Logan, which I don't know if those ones would make it in, to be honest. And then you also have one that looks really interesting. Maybe this would be a more auteur pick, and it would be A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which I have not seen, but it looks really interesting. So what would I do? I think I definitely, based on reviews and what I've heard about it, I would want to go with A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. I don't really know much about this, except it seems like it's a really atmospheric, moody vampire movie. It seems kind of like a hidden gem, perhaps. I'm really curious to watch it. I believe, if I know correctly, it's not in the English language. So yeah, I think I want to go with A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. And for my final choice, gosh, what do I do? Because I kind of have some auteur picks, but I also have some populist picks. I think I definitely have to go with my gut. It's a movie that I deeply love and I think is really good, and I think it would be a hit amongst anyone who likes movies, and that would be going with What We Do in the Shadows. I love that movie so much. There's not much else to say except this movie is really good, really funny, and it blends like the horror comedy of vampires and humor so well. Absolutely one of my favorite movies. This is a kind of a really difficult one. What would get the Sharky? Some might think I might immediately go with It Follows or The Babadook. Maybe I go with one of the more auteur picks. Maybe nobody knows what to do, so it goes with the more populist pick. I think the Sharky would go to What We Do in the Shadows. Maybe that's kind of controversial. I don't know. So for 2013, I have 3 movies that stood out to me yet again, which would be The Conjuring, World War Z, and Under the Skin. The Conjuring, because it was such a popular phenomenon, it was really good, very well received. So yeah, it kind of fits both of those boxes. World War Z is a huge popular movie. A lot of people have seen it. I have not seen it actually, but a lot of people have seen it. It seems to be more like horror zombie action, if I know correctly. Under the Skin is that kind of more auteur pick. You have Jonathan Glazer before he did, I think, The Zone of Interest. And this one has like Scarlett Johansson as well. I still have yet to see Under the Skin. I need to watch that. So what else do we have? Well, 2013 is when we saw The First Purge, not The First Purge, but literally The Purge 1, the first movie to come out of the Purge franchise. You have movies like the Evil Dead remake, Warm Bodies, Insidious Chapter 2, the Carrie remake, The Green Inferno. For some of the more maybe hidden ones, we have movies such as Oculus, The Sacrament, A Fiend in England, VHS 2. You have things like Dark Skies, Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters, Mama. You have cinematic masterpieces such as Sharknado or Knights of Badassdom, which, by the way, if you're a fan of like D&D and tabletop games like I am, you should check out Knights of Badassdom. I'm not saying it's good, but I'm just saying watch it with your friends. So what should we choose? I don't think this one is much of a big question to me. I think the fourth one would definitely be Evil Dead, the remake, because I think this remake was actually pretty well done as remakes go, and I think it was fairly popular and well received. So I don't see why this one should not be getting a nomination. And for my last one, this is really difficult. I'm gonna go with kind of something a little different. This is a movie that actually I was all right with. Like, I thought it was pretty mid and kind of like a little boring. I didn't love it, but I think generally a lot of people really like this movie. It is directed by Mike Flanagan, who is a popular horror director, and I would go Oculus. I think this movie could sneak in for a little bit more of a hidden indie gem pick, because I think this was like before Mike Flanagan was getting like really popular, if I remember correctly. So I think Oculus could get in there, because just because I'm not a big fan of a film doesn't mean that it wouldn't be nominated by the Academy, because that happens all the time. Now, who will be the winner? The Sharky goes to The Conjuring. I don't know. I think maybe I'm a big biased James Wan fan, but I think The Conjuring is good enough, is well received enough, was popular enough that this one would definitely take the win. Okay, so for 2012, this one is again another rather particularly difficult year. So we have a movie that, of course, because of the Alien rule, would definitely get in, and that would be Prometheus, which is like the prequel to Alien Covenant, which is kind of still the prequel to the original Alien, kind of like a reboot into this world. I think Prometheus would definitely get in there. The second movie that I don't have a question about would be Sinister. This one was a popular movie, but also one that was very well received. Don't see why that wouldn't get in there. Flashback to some of the movies that came out that year, some of the more popular ones, maybe like The Woman in Black, the Daniel Radcliffe horror film, Paranormal Activity 4, The Devil Inside, Silent Hill Revelation, Maniac, the remake with Elijah Wood, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, Would You Rather, Resident Evil Retribution, maybe some things like VHS, American Mary, The ABCs of Death, The Bay, Vamps, Antiviral, Excision. Maybe you could get a little pre-popular Jennifer Lawrence with The House at the End of the Street, and maybe you add a little Rob Zombie in there with The Lords of Salem. But the third one that I'm actually going to pick for this is going to be more of an obscure gem that is well received, that I have not seen yet. So keep that in mind. I have not seen yet, but it's got good reviews, but I definitely aim to watch this, is Helter Skelter, which is a Japanese, I think probably body horror film, which seems very akin to Perfect Blue and Black Swan, those kind of psychological body horrors. Maybe it's like The Substance-esque. So I'm going to go with Helter Skelter for that kind of pick. I think for my next one, I'm going to go with something that people seem to like, and it is a Cronenberg. It is Brandon Cronenberg, so maybe they want to also honor the Cronenberg name and family, so maybe they would give the next one to a film called Antiviral. I have not seen this movie, but it seems to be generally well received, so I kind of want to throw this in there. 2012 is a very difficult year for me. I may be totally off base, so please let me know if I need to change this, because I probably do. So I think for the simple fact, this is kind of crazy of me, but I think for the simple fact that I don't know what to do with this year, because there's a lot of movies that I haven't seen, and there's a lot of movies that I just seem kind of mid. The last one is going to be a pure populist pick that nobody thinks is actually like good it's cinematically good, but maybe it's good in the fun way, like for a fun popcorn time. But I think I'm gonna go with Resident Evil Retribution, because maybe in this instance where the Academy doesn't know what to do, they're just gonna throw something in there that people know that can just fill in the slot of the category. So that means who would be the winner in such a difficult category? This is the year. And the Sharky goes to Prometheus. The Academy has never truly honored Ridley Scott, if I remember correctly. So maybe this is their chance where they're like, okay, here's your horror Oscar. But I think as time has gone on, Prometheus has grown on people. I actually kind of like it. Why not? Let's give the Sharky to Prometheus. All right, 2011. As we get to like these earlier years, this is a little bit difficult for me, because I don't know, maybe just for me, but like the early 2010s was not the time for horror. Like, I truly realize now, looking back, how good horror has gotten and is in these recent years, at least for my tastes. But maybe like the early 2010s is not my time for horror for me. However, there is some movies that I do like. So with 2011, I think maybe this is a bias, because maybe at the same time, I don't know if the Academy would go for such things. It would be The Cabin in the Woods. I think that one is a shoo-in. The second one that I would pick is a little more of an auteur pick of a popular director. That is a movie that is pretty critically well liked. This would be The Skin I Live In. I have not seen, which I really would like to. The next one I would say would be You're Next, which is actually a pretty good film, and it's a little bit subversive for the home invasion genre, I would say. So if you have not seen You're Next, I definitely recommend it. So these are some movies that I feel like would be fun to honor. Some of the movies that we have in 2011, we have a couple of different like sequels or franchise films. We have Scream 4, which is Wes Craven's last film. You have Final Destination 5, The Thing remake prequel thing. I actually have not seen the 2011 The Thing, despite the John Carpenter's Thing being like one of my favorite films of all time. You have Paranormal Activity 3, The Human Centipede 2, maybe some more of the hidden movies, Kill List, Megan is Missing, Grave Encounters, standard films, which would be like Fright Night, the Fright Night remake. You could have Red Riding Hood or The Roommate or also Apollo 18. I think for the one that I would put in would probably actually be the 2011's The Thing. I think it's been so long since the original Thing, and it seems to be doing enough of its own thing that it might have been well enough liked to get in. However, I did not see it, so please correct me if I'm wrong about that. My bias towards and my love for Scream really wants me to put Scream 4 in, especially knowing that it's Wes Craven's last film. So I'm like, oh, maybe they would want to honor him. However, would they have known at the time that that was Wes Craven's last film? Maybe not. So maybe it's just my personal bias, and I'm trying to leave my personal bias out of here, even though this is my video. So honestly, I could do that. But I will try to not to do that. So I think the last one that I am going to choose is going to be a well-received Japanese film called Kotoko, which I have not seen, but I would like to. So I think that this one could round it out. And now who would the Sharky go to? Part of me wants to give it to The Skin I Live In because, you know, it's directed by Pedro Almodovar, which is really popular amongst film people and critics and whatnot, I believe. But I have not seen it, so it really feels difficult for me to award something that, one, I have not seen, but one, I genuinely don't really know too much about. But I also don't want it to be limited to only movies that I've seen because that makes it really difficult. Because if I go to movies that I've seen, then I definitely think that would give You're Next and The Cabin in the Woods the up and up. But do I really feel like The Cabin in the Woods is the type of movie the Academy would award, even if they honored horror movies? And I have big doubts. So the Sharky goes to The Skin I Live In. All right, so our final year for the video is going to be 2010. So looking at this, we have some big popular films such as Black Swan, which is a given considering that it did get into the Academy Awards. We have Insidious in here. And then the third one I think is going to be a really well-received Korean film that I have not seen, but I think it looks good enough based on from what I heard about it that I would put it in, which is I Saw the Devil. Some of the more popular movies, big budget movies that we have seen that year would be things like Saw 3D, A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake with Kyle Gallner, Paranormal Activity 2, Resident Evil Afterlife, I Spit on Your Grave remake, The Wolfman, Piranha. Hidden ones, maybe you have things like Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which is awesome. You have things like Rubber, Let Me In, My Soul to Take, which is a Wes Craven film, The Ward, which is a John Carpenter film, a Serbian film, but no. I just don't see any way in the world the Academy would award a Serbian film. So no. What would we do? Well, Black Swan and Insidious were very popular movies, so we kind of got our popular picks in there. I Saw the Devil, which is like the foreign Korean film that would get in there. Now what else could we do? I think I would actually put Paranormal Activity 2. And I know this is a sequel, but I think that there is special rules for movies that are sequels, but they make crazy ton money at the box office, because I'm pretty sure it did, right? Like it was a huge cultural phenomenon, especially after the first movie. So I think that there is special caveats for those kinds of movies. And I think in terms of Paranormal Activity, the second one was pretty decent. Like, I mean, it scared me, but I'm also really easily scared by ghost movies. And after much deliberation, I think that the last one, this is probably going to be a little bit more of like an unbelievable pick. So if you have a different one in mind, please let me know. But I am going to go with Tucker and Dale versus Evil, because when in doubt, I'm going to go with something that I know I've seen, that I know I've liked, and it's generally pretty popular amongst horror fans, I believe. So Tucker and Dale versus Evil, I definitely think should get that nom. But what would get the Sharky? Well, I think the Sharky would definitely go to Black Swan. I mean, it's very obvious. It's a very good film. Natalie Portman gave such a performance of the lifetime. I genuinely love that movie. It made it into the actual Academy for a reason, so I think it definitely would be honored in this category should it have existed. Those are my winners for our fake little best horror Oscar. So please let me know what you think of these ones, what you would have changed. Let me know if the nominations would have been any different in your eyes or the winners would have been any different, if there's movies that I've missed or I'm completely wrong about because either I haven't seen it or you just disagree with what I like. I'm very curious. If this kind of video interested you, let me know because I can explore other decades if it was interesting. Just to give a quick shout out, if you are also looking for movies to watch during this spooky season, please check out my other video in which I posted a little horror guide if you want to explore more horror movies this season. If you had a good time, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe. I really appreciate all of the support and the kind words everyone has given me so far in this YouTube journey. And yeah, with that, again, thanks for hanging out with me, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye bye.